History is filled with incredible stories of survival. We often focus on the grand strategies and the clash of armies. But sometimes, the most important battles were fought against an enemy far more relentless than any human foe: the cold. In the brutal winters of the Second World War, soldiers on the Eastern Front faced temperatures that could freeze a man solid in minutes. They had thick boots and woolen socks, the best gear their nations could provide. Yet, thousands suffered from trench foot and frostbite, a devastating injury that could lead to amputation and death. It was a crisis that military high commands struggled to solve with technology. But amidst the desperation, a simple, almost forgotten hack emerged from the ranks. It wasn't a new type of boot or a chemically heated sock. It was a piece of battlefield wisdom, passed from soldier to soldier. They discovered a secret that modern winter gear manufacturers often overlook. The greatest threat to their feet wasn't the frigid air around them. It was the frozen ground beneath them. This simple realization led to an ingenious, low-tech solution that saved countless toes, feet, and lives. This is the story of that lost trick, a lesson in survival forged in the harshest conditions imaginable. This wasn't a life hack you might see on social media today. This was a desperate measure born from life or death necessity. While military quartermasters were shipping tons of standard-issue gear to the front, the soldiers themselves were innovating. They realized that no matter how many pairs of socks they wore, their feet still grew numb and then turned black. The cold was seeping in from below, conducting heat directly out of their bodies and into the icy earth. The solution was breathtakingly simple. Create a barrier. A thin, non-conductive layer placed inside the boot, right under the foot. This technique stands as a powerful testament to human ingenuity. It proves that understanding the fundamental principles of science, in this case thermodynamics, can be more effective than the most advanced equipment. The soldiers of the Second World War didn't have scientific journals or laboratories. They had observation and experience. They learned that stopping heat loss to the ground was the key to survival. This piece of forgotten history is more than just a curious anecdote. It's a practical lesson that remains incredibly relevant for anyone who ventures into the cold today, from hikers to construction workers. We tend to think of getting cold as a matter of air temperature. The thermometer drops, so we put on a thicker coat. But when it comes to your feet, the air is only part of the story. The real danger is a process called conduction. Conduction is the direct transfer of heat between two objects in physical contact. When you stand on frozen ground, your warm boot soles are touching a massive heat-sucking surface. The earth acts like a giant ice block, relentlessly pulling warmth out of your feet, no matter how insulated the rest of your boot is. It's a battle your body cannot win. Most modern winter boots are designed to combat the cold air. They feature thick uppers made of leather and nylon, with insulation like Thinsulate or Gore-Tex to keep your ankles warm and dry. These are important features, of course. But many manufacturers neglect the most critical point of heat loss: the sole. The rubber or synthetic soles of most boots are excellent conductors of cold. This means they efficiently transfer the freezing temperature of the ground directly to the inside of your boot. Your body has to work overtime to pump warm blood to your feet just to keep them from freezing. This is why you can wear the most expensive winter boots on the market and still end up with numb, dangerously cold toes. Your socks, no matter how thick or technologically advanced, become compressed under your body weight. This compression reduces their insulating properties to almost nothing. The wool or synthetic fibers are squashed flat, creating a direct bridge for heat to escape. You are essentially standing on a thin layer of crushed fabric, with the freezing cold of the ground just millimeters away. Your expensive socks and boots have failed you at this critical point of contact. The soldiers of the Second World War understood this fundamental problem through harsh experience. They noticed that their comrades who were constantly moving fared better than those standing guard for hours. The act of standing still maximized the time for conduction to do its work, draining precious heat from their bodies. They learned that the fight against frostbite wasn't about trapping warm air. It was about creating a shield against the cold ground. This crucial insight is the key to understanding why their simple, homemade solution worked so brilliantly when official military issue gear fell short. Faced with the failure of their standard issue equipment, soldiers across the European theater turned to their own resourcefulness. The solution they devised was not complicated or high-tech. It was a simple, yet revolutionary act of placing a thin, insulating barrier inside their boots. This barrier was not meant to add cushioning or warmth in the traditional sense. Its sole purpose was to break the chain of conduction. It sat between their socked foot and the cold, sodden inner sole of the boot, creating a shield that stopped the ground from stealing their body heat. This was the secret weapon against frostbite. The materials used were whatever soldiers could find in the field. This was battlefield bricolage at its finest. They scrounged and repurposed items that had little to do with footwear. Scraps of felt from old blankets or uniforms were a common choice. Pieces of thick newspaper, folded several times, became a surprisingly effective insulator. Soviet troops were known to use layers of their state newspaper, Pravda, to line their boots. The paper, especially when dry, trapped tiny pockets of air and blocked the conductive heat loss that was crippling their armies. Another incredibly effective material was waxed cardboard. Soldiers would cut insoles from their ration boxes, which were often coated in wax to protect the contents from moisture. This wax coating was a game changer. It not only provided an excellent thermal break, but also created a waterproof barrier, preventing moisture from the sole of the boot from soaking into the sock. This was crucial, as a wet foot is a cold foot. The combination of insulation and waterproofing made these simple cardboard inserts more effective than anything the quartermasters could supply. The genius of this method was its simplicity and adaptability. It didn't matter if you were a German soldier on the outskirts of Stalingrad or an American GI in the Battle of the Bulge. The principle remained the same, and the materials were universal. A piece of cardboard, a few sheets of newspaper, a strip of birch bark, anything that could be slipped into the bottom of a boot could become a life-saving device. This wasn't an official order from high command. It was a grassroots survival technique that spread through the ranks because it worked when nothing else did. The historical record provides compelling evidence for the effectiveness of this technique. Perhaps the most famous and successful practitioners were the Finnish ski troops during the Winter War against the Soviet Union. These soldiers were masters of winter survival. While the massive Red Army suffered catastrophic losses to frostbite, the Finns seemed almost immune. Part of their secret was their deep, traditional knowledge of the natural world. They knew that one of the best insulators available grew all around them in the vast northern forests, birch bark. Finnish soldiers would carefully peel thin layers of bark from birch trees and shape them into insoles for their boots. The unique cellular structure of birch bark makes it both waterproof and an excellent thermal insulator. It's filled with tiny air pockets that create a powerful barrier against conduction. By lining their boots with this natural material, Finnish troops effectively disconnected their feet from the frozen ground. This simple piece of bark allowed them to remain effective for long periods in conditions that incapacitated their enemies. Their low rates of frostbite are a testament to the power of this principle. The experience of other armies further supports this. German soldiers on the Eastern Front, initially ill-equipped for the brutal Russian winter, quickly learned to adapt or perish. Veterans recalled using everything from straw to the thick waxed cardboard of their supply crates to create insulating inserts. Similarly, American troops caught in the frigid Ardennes during the Battle of the Bulge used the cardboard liners from their K-ration boxes. The material itself seemed less important than the placement. The key was to have that critical layer blocking heat transfer at the sole. In contrast, armies that relied solely on standard issue gear without this adaptation suffered immensely. The early Soviet campaigns against Finland saw tens of thousands of Red Army soldiers crippled by frostbite. Their boots were often sturdy, but they lacked this crucial insulating barrier at the sole. The lesson is clear. Technology and thick materials mean little if they don't address the primary mechanism of heat loss. The Finns, with their humble birch bark, had outsmarted the industrial might of their adversary by simply understanding the science of cold better. The beauty of this WWII survival tactic is that it's just as easy and effective to replicate today. You don't need special equipment or expensive materials. The first and perhaps best option is to use wool felt. You can buy sheets of thick industrial wool felt online or from craft stores. Simply trace the outline of your boot's existing insole onto the felt and cut out your new barrier. Slip this felt insert into your boot, underneath your regular insole or sock. Wool is a fantastic natural insulator, and its dense fibers create a formidable shield against conductive heat loss. If you can't find wool felt, don't worry. The soldiers of WWII used what they had, and so can you. A simple piece of cardboard will work remarkably well, especially for a day trip or a short-term solution. For a more durable and water-resistant version, find a piece of waxed cardboard, just like the soldiers did. Look at the boxes that hold produce or bulk frozen goods at the supermarket. Cut an insert from this material and you'll have an excellent moisture-repelling thermal barrier. The key is to make sure it covers the entire bottom of your foot inside the boot. Even common household items can be used. Several layers of folded newspaper, while not durable, can work in a pinch. Another excellent modern material is closed-cell foam, like that found in cheap camping mats. This foam is lightweight, waterproof, and a superb insulator because it's filled with trapped air bubbles. A thin slice of a foam sleeping pad cut to the shape of your insole can dramatically increase the warmth of your boots. The goal isn't to add cushion, but to create a non-conductive layer. A few millimeters is all it takes to make a huge difference. Remember the principle: the material matters less than the placement. You are creating a shield. This shield goes at the very bottom of your boot, directly against the inner sole, to stop the cold ground from reaching your foot. Whether you use wool, cardboard, foam, or even a stack of paper towels, you are applying a combat-proven scientific principle. This simple, inexpensive trick can transform a standard pair of work boots or hiking boots into legitimate cold-weather gear, giving you a level of protection that even some expensive modern winter boots fail to provide. In our modern world, we are often convinced that the newest technology is always the best solution. We look for boots with advanced synthetic membranes and space-age insulation materials. Yet, as the forgotten wisdom of WWII demonstrates, we often neglect the fundamental principles of survival. The simple act of blocking ground conduction remains one of the most effective ways to keep your feet warm, a lesson that is just as relevant today for campers, outdoor workers, hunters, and anyone who spends time in the winter cold. This isn't just a hack, it's applied science. The principle extends far beyond just your feet. Campers who sleep on the cold ground without a proper sleeping pad learn this lesson the hard way. A high-tech sleeping bag rated for sub-zero temperatures is useless if you are lying directly on the frozen earth. The ground will suck the heat right out of your body through conduction. That's why a simple foam or inflatable pad is the most critical piece of winter camping gear. It does for your entire body what the birch bark insole did for a soldier's foot. It creates a thermal break, stopping heat loss to the ground. This WWII hack is a powerful reminder that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most robust. While modern materials have improved, they haven't changed the laws of physics. Conduction is still the primary way your feet lose heat in the winter. By understanding this, you can make any boot warmer and safer. This knowledge empowers you to be more resilient and less dependent on expensive, specialized gear. It's about being smarter, not just having more stuff. It's a mindset of resourcefulness that was essential for survival 70 years ago and remains just as valuable today. So, the next time you prepare for a cold day outside, remember the soldiers on the Eastern Front and the Finnish ski troops in their forests. Remember their simple, life-saving discovery. This trick, born from desperation and ingenuity, is arguably the best-kept secret in real cold-weather survival. It's a piece of history you can use. Share this knowledge, try it for yourself, and appreciate the enduring power of practical wisdom. In the constant battle against the cold, sometimes the old ways are still the best ways.